Our top story tonight, nationwide SNAP benefits are officially halted today as the government shutdown hits 1 month. President Trump says his lawyers are reaching out to the courts for clarification on how to legally fund the nutrition program. With the government shutdown now on track to be the longest in U.S. history, a review of what's happening in the stalemate on Capitol Hill. Plus, a look back at President Trump's busy week, from high-stakes diplomacy in Asia to controversy over new nuclear tests. From New York City to Virginia and New Jersey, voters will head to the polls next week to cast their ballots. What are the races to watch and what we know about the top contenders? As all eyes focus on the New York City mayor's race, what about the city council elections? How could another Democratic majority impact the future mayor? A political strategist breaks it down. In baseball, it all comes down to tonight's Game 7 in Toronto. Will the Dodgers repeat or will we get a new champion? NTD's Dave Martin joins us to discuss. And it's time to fall back. Daylight saving time ends tonight. We have some tips on how to maintain your circadian rhythm.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Arlene Richards. With the government shutdown now lasting 1 month starting today, SNAP nutrition benefits are paused for millions of Americans. A judge yesterday ordered the government to dip into emergency funds to continue the benefit payments. Following the ruling, President Trump last night said he had instructed his lawyers to ask for clarification on how the administration can legally fund SNAP. In a Truth Social post, Trump wrote, quote, "Our government lawyers do not think we have the legal authority to pay SNAP with certain monies we have available. And now 2 courts have issued conflicting opinions on what we can and cannot do." He added, quote, "If we are given the appropriate legal direction by the court, it will be my honor to provide the funding, just like I did with military and law enforcement pay." The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, serves about 1 in 8 Americans and costs about $8 billion per month. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's website today posted a notice saying the well has run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. Judges have ordered the Trump administration to provide further updates by Monday on funding the program. The stalemate on Capitol Hill has prompted President Trump to call on lawmakers to invoke the so-called nuclear option to bypass votes from Democrats needed to reopen the government. NTD's Melina Weisskopf brings us this week's recap from Washington, D.C.
A month-long stalemate on Capitol Hill is on track to cause the longest government shutdown in history.
Things are getting really tough for the American people. The Democrats are coming near now to a cliff that they will not be able to turn back from.
Republicans are pushing for a clean bill to extend government funds, while Democrats are insisting on their health care demands.
The largest cut to Medicaid in American history, that's policy violence. And the refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
With the shutdown causing flight delays, major airlines are pressing Democrats to reopen the government.
And then you strip away their pay and say continue going to your job every day and move 3 million passengers and 45,000 flights. It's completely unacceptable. The frustration level is at an all-time high. The anger is at level 10.
Now President Trump is calling on Senate Republicans to bypass Democrats altogether. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "It is now time for Republicans to play their Trump card and go for what's called the nuclear option. Get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now."
So we'd like to see this taken care of rapidly. You have a lot of, we have tremendous support, but it's not even support, it's common sense. Open up the country.
Nixing the filibuster would end a rule that requires 60 votes to pass most legislation, but Republican leaders appear opposed. Funding for SNAP benefits, known as food stamps, were set to run dry today. A federal judge has ordered the government to use emergency funds to keep benefits afloat during the shutdown.
This is Congress's fault. So when it comes to SNAP, The only solution here is we need to appropriate the money.
The judge's order comes after Republican leaders refused to vote on a standalone bill to fund benefits during the shutdown.
It has Republican and Democratic support. It's a bill I'd happily support and vote for. And as soon as Thune would let Hawley put it on the House floor, it will pass. Plain and simple.
Republicans, though, insist their funding bill already replenishes these funds.
And we've tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times. This isn't a political game. These are real people's lives that we're talking about.
Amid the shutdown, senators held a hearing this week probing big tech. Senators grilled executives from Google and Meta on why they censored posts about COVID-19 and election fraud.
If anyone argues there's fraud, if anyone lays out claims, if anyone lays out evidence, the omnipotent Google in the sky will say, no, you stupid citizens, you don't get to hear this.
We did feel pressure from the Biden administration to censor content related to COVID-19.
The Biden administration did press us to take action with regard to certain COVID-19 information that they thought should be taken down.
Senator Ted Cruz plans to push legislation that will allow individuals to sue the government for censorship. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
From high-stakes diplomacy in Asia to controversy over new nuclear tests and a festive Halloween at the White House. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your White House week in review.
President Trump was in Asia for most of the week, securing key deals and strengthening alliances. In Japan, Trump met with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi at the Royal Palace in Tokyo. The leaders signed a landmark agreement on strategic investments, rare earths, and critical minerals.
This will be a relationship that will be stronger than ever before, and I look forward to working with you.
Then it was on to South Korea, where Trump was awarded South Korea's highest honor, the Grand Order of Mugunghwa.
I'd like to wear it right now. Thank you so much.
Washington and Seoul agreed to cut tariffs on Korean autos and auto parts to 15%, while South Korea reaffirmed its $350 billion U.S. investment commitment. Trump wrapped up the trip with a meeting with Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping.
And we're going to have a very successful meeting, I have no doubt.
Trump agreed with Xi to trim tariffs on China in exchange for Beijing cracking down on the illicit fentanyl trade, resuming U.S. soybean purchases, and keeping rare earths exports flowing.
I'll be going to China in April, and he'll be coming here sometime after that, whether it's in Florida, Palm Beach, or Washington, D.C.
Before meeting Xi, Trump ordered the Pentagon to begin conducting nuclear weapons tests again.
With others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
China has more than doubled the size of its arsenal to an estimated 600 nuclear weapons in 2025 from 300 weapons in 2020. The Arms Control Association criticized the move, saying the U.S. has no technical, military, or political reason to resume nuclear explosive testing for the first time since 1992. Nearly 20 alleged narco-terrorists were killed in multiple drug boat strikes this week. Senator Rand Paul criticized the action, saying, "We've been presented with no evidence of a crime." And Halloween was in the air in D.C. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump handed out candy to trick-or-treaters at the White House. President Trump, who once did a brief campaign stint as a McDonald's worker, greeted new drive-thru employees at the White House. The Pentagon has instructed all states and territories to form quick reaction National Guard units by January. The forces must be trained and equipped to handle domestic riots and civil disturbances. President Trump ordered in August War Secretary Pete Hegseth to establish the specialized units. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
President Trump is threatening to cut aid to Nigeria. He says that if the Nigerian government continues to allow, quote, the killing of Christians. Trump says Christians in the West African nation are under threat. In a post on Truth Social today, he said the U.S. may go into the country to, quote, completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these terrible atrocities. He said he's instructing the Department of War to prepare possible actions. Earlier this week, the State Department added Nigeria to a countries of particular concern list for engaging in what the U.S. believes are violations of religious freedom. The list includes China, Myanmar, North Korea, Russia, and Pakistan, among others. According to State Department data, the U.S. committed about $1 billion of aid to Nigeria. Israel said today the partial remains of 3 individuals handed over by Hamas last night do not belong to any hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office confirmed the report. The handover came after Israel returned the bodies of 30 Palestinians to Gaza on Friday. The Hamas terrorist group said it offered to hand over samples of unidentified bodies, but that Israel refused and asked for the full remains for examination. Since the ceasefire agreement took effect on October 10th, Hamas has released 20 living hostages and handed over the remains of 17 others. The bodies of 11 more hostages are thought to still be in Gaza. 2 more suspects have been charged in connection to the Louvre Museum heist, the Paris prosecutor said today. Both suspects, a man and a woman, have denied any involvement in the theft. Meanwhile, 3 others arrested on Wednesday were released without charge. Right now, a total of 4 people are under investigation and remain in custody. That includes 2 suspects arrested last Sunday who have partially admitted their involvement in the case. 2 weeks ago, hooded thieves made off with crown jewels worth over $100 million after breaking into the Louvre's Apollo Gallery during opening hours. So far, there is no trace of the stolen jewels. Voters in several states will head to the polls next Tuesday to cast their ballots. Democrats and Republicans will compete in races for governor, state attorney general, and mayor. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the races to watch.
Tuesday will see candidates in several states vying for votes. In the Virginia governor's race, Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears will face off against Democrat Abigail Spanberger. Spanberger has consistently led in polls, with an 8% advantage in the most recent polling. Voters in New Jersey will pick their next governor as well. Democrat Mikey Sherrill is competing against Republican and former state assemblyman Jack Ciattarelli. Though Sherrill is ahead, the most recent polling shows her lead at just 1%. In Virginia's race for Attorney General, Democrat nominee Jay Jones will take on Republican incumbent Jason Miyares. Republicans have pushed for Jones to drop out of the race after text messages surfaced in which he talked about shooting former House Speaker Todd Gilbert. During a debate on October 16th, Jones publicly apologized to Gilbert, saying he was ashamed. Spanberger, the gubernatorial candidate, has refused to call for Jones to drop out. In Pennsylvania, 3 Democratic members of the state's highest court are up for re-election. Christine Donahue, Kevin Dougherty, and David Wetsch have no opponents, but voters will decide if they should remain on the bench. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Election Day 2025 is coming up next week. NTD's Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer will bring you our live special coverage of all the biggest races from New York's mayoral election to the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia. Tune in on Tuesday, November 4th at 7 p.m. to get the latest election results with live analysis from our data reporters and our on-the-ground teams. That's Tuesday, November 4th, starting 7 p.m., only here on NTD. Don't miss it. And coming up, a discussion on the significance of the city council to the future mayor of New York City. A political strategist joins us to break it down after the break. While there's a huge focus on the New York City mayor's race, residents are also voting for their city council representatives. Now, all 51 seats are up for grabs. Winners will have the power to introduce and vote on bills, monitor city agencies, and override the mayor's vetoes. So how important are these races, and what impact could the outcomes have on how the new mayor runs the city? Joining us now is political strategist and attorney Gerard Filitti. He's senior counsel at the Lawfare Project. Gerard, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, currently, the New York City Council has 45 Democrats and 6 Republicans. So first off, how important are these city council races for any political party?
These city council races are really crucial in New York City. While all of the attention has gone to the candidates running for mayor, at the end of the day, New York City's budget and priorities are really set by the city council. Like Congress, they have the power of the purse. They appropriate funding. They raise or lower taxes. They prioritize which departments and programs get budgets and how they're effectively prioritizing what is going on in New York City. They also hold vetoes. They can override a mayoral veto, especially when you have 46 Democrats. The real distinction isn't between Republican and Democrat, but whether you have more moderate members of the city council versus more progressive ones.
So far, with the current city council, what kinds of policies have they pushed during Mayor Adams' tenure?
Well, the policies have really been center-left. It's not been policy so much as it has been initiatives with the police department. They've not increased funding significantly. They've put money in schools, but those have gone more towards diversity programs rather than core educational programs. You've seen an increase in spending on public arts activities, beautifying the city, so to speak, programs that benefit or work with NGOs, with non-government organizations. So this has really been the alignment of the city. Right now, the city council has 6 Republicans, but of the Democrats, about 20 of those lean progressive, and their policies are more left of center than the moderate Democrats, which are somewhat more aligned with the Republicans.
Now, the council also has tremendous influence over how New Yorkers may vote in this mayor's race. So over 20 council members, as you just mentioned, have endorsed Zohran Mamdani, which is more progressive. And just 1 has endorsed Andrew Cuomo, and the 6 Republicans have endorsed Curtis Sliwa. Now, Cuomo is technically still a Democrat. So how likely is it that those other 20 or so moderate council members would actually rally votes for him?
It's possible that they will, and we've seen a lot of city council members out at rallies encouraging people to vote. Many of them have made their voting preferences clear in a private setting, not so much public. I think there is a bit of trepidation on the relationships that the city council may have with the mayor if it is Mamdani that ultimately wins on Tuesday. So you're not seeing a rush of council members going to endorse Cuomo. The Republicans have endorsed Sliwa, but many Republicans in New York City are actually not voting for the Republican candidate. They think that Cuomo has a better chance of defeating Mamdani, and they're quite scared of the outcome of New York City swinging more into the Democrat socialist category.
Now, you mentioned a little earlier about the control and power council has over things like influencing and improving the legislation. They can propose and vote on bills, and even the mayor, they can veto the bill. They can get a 2/3 majority and override that veto. So we saw this happening under Mayor Adams. But in a deep blue city like New York, could we still expect to see more Republicans winning seats for a more balanced council?
It's always possible. There are, of this election, there are 4 seats out of these 51 that are a little bit more competitive, where we can see Republicans potentially gain 1 of 2 open seats, and if not more. So there is the possibility that when we do the counting after this election, we will have slightly more, maybe 7 or 8 Republican seats. But we have to remember, New York City is heavily Democratic. The proportion of seats actually corresponds pretty closely to voter registration within the city overall, and absent redistricting, it's difficult for Republicans to get beyond that 10-seat threshold. So we really do have a distinction in New York City that's not so much along party lines, but along extremes of the spectrum, whether it's progressive or conservative, with most council members, even the Republican ones, falling somewhat to the middle.
Now, Mamdani doesn't have majority support from city council, and he's consistently polling at about 45% in this general election. So if he wins without even a simple majority, how difficult could it be for him to advance his policies?
It may be difficult, but it would require a lot of unity, not just among Republicans, but among the more conservative or moderate Democrats within the city council. Right now, there are probably a good enough number of Democrats who are more on the progressive side and have even endorsed Mamdani, that Mamdani may be able to veto what city council does, and the city council may not be able to override it. So this really comes down to priorities. Mamdani will have his job cut out for him to convince more moderate-leaning Democrats Democrats to approve of his priorities and to not second guess his choices. So this is really a challenge. It depends on whether he keeps true to what he has said he's doing during this campaign, which is more radical than most city council members prefer, or whether he builds bridges with the more conservative and moderate Democrats.
Now, let's talk about Curtis Sliwa. He's at the top of the ticket for Republicans. Could a growing push not to vote for him lead to even fewer people voting for Republican candidates in this city council race?
It's possible, but not likely. I think that Republicans are well motivated to vote at the city council level. Looking at New York City historically, there's always been a good push by city council candidates to do the canvassing, to do the door knocking, to get people out to the ballots, whether it's early voting that started last week or whether it's on election day. So that sometimes is at odds with the mayoral race, where people may be undecided or not even cast a vote for mayor. I think that Republican candidates and Democrat ones, for that matter, have been very effective at getting out the vote in their districts for themselves as candidates. So I don't see a carryover effect. However, I do think that there will be a split vote by a lot of Republicans who will be voting for their Republican council member, but will be voting for Cuomo for mayor.
And lastly, do you think Americans today are putting enough emphasis on these local races, which appear to be very important?
Well, I think these local races do play a very important part in setting priorities for the city. And both parties have been prioritizing them increasingly. But what's interesting in New York City is that it's the more radical wing of the Democratic Party that's really paid a close attention to these local council races and really invested time, money, and efforts into getting those seats away from more moderate Democrats. So I think it's time that both the Republican and Democrat parties start to realize the importance of these local races. Otherwise, they're risking having a balance shift more to the socialist side, to the progressive side, which is uncomfortable for both most Democrats and the Republican Party.
Now, regardless of which one of these candidates wins the mayoral race, I think they're going to face a tough city council in getting all of their policies passed. Gerard Felitti, attorney and political strategist, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Only 3 days to go until the New York City mayoral election. NTD's Dave Martin asked some New Yorkers for their takes on the candidates. Take a look.
I voted for Cuomo because I really don't know Mandani, right? I don't know enough of him, and I don't trust him enough to run the city. His promises is like a little bit outlandish. Like, I just think it's too much, like, you know, free busing. I don't think that's going to happen. I think in Cuomo, you know, I felt like he is a fair governor. His personal business does not have to do with his work ethic.
Yeah, I'm planning on voting for Zohran Mamdani. I think he's great for the people. He really makes me think of, like, myself as a New York resident. I feel very connected, and I especially like what he wants to do with the MTA. I really think that's a good thing, especially because so many New Yorkers here, like, are dependent on commuting, whether that's for work, for school.
I'm 23. In my 23 years of living, you always hear politicians are going to do this, going to do that. Then when they get into office, something happened. They do a fraction of what they actually said they were going to do. $30 minimum wage, freezing rent, that sounds good. Who wouldn't want that? But I don't really think it's going to happen. And Sliwa, I think he's the man for the job. But I don't think he's going to win either. From what I know about him, he's been in the streets of New York since like the 70s. I heard he got shot over it. I think he really is in New York's best interest. I don't know what it's called. I don't think there's enough dollars behind him that's going to actually help him win. But
Coming up in the World Series, it all comes down to tonight's Game 7 in Toronto. Will the Dodgers repeat, or will we get a new champion? NTD's Dave Martin joins us to discuss. And are green vegetables and natural grains really as healthy as we think they are? A physician explains why a meat-based diet may actually be better for you. After the break.
Election season is back. Socialism is on the ballot in New York, and Trump-backed Republicans in Virginia and New Jersey face their Democratic opponents for governor with results that could impact each party's future. Watch these key races and more during our live special coverage with live data analysis and on-the-ground teams. Join NTD's Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on Election 2025, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NTD.
for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, welcome as usual.
Thank you, Arlene.
So there's a big night tonight, I guess. We've got Game 7 in the World Series. Did you think it would ever get this far?
You know, maybe at the beginning of the series I did. I did not think we were headed toward a Game 7 yesterday, you know, heading into there. I mean, the Dodgers have really failed to hit in this series. I mean, they've really relied on their starting pitching really to get this far in even the playoffs. They got another great performance last night from Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Another stellar performance, 6 innings pitched, allowed just 1 run on 5 hits. Now, he shut down the Blue Jays in Game 2 as well. I think 1 run, it was a complete game win that time. Their offense, though, the Dodgers only got 3 runs. It was enough thanks to a great defensive play to end the game. Now, Enrique Hernandez made a great catch. What looked like it was going to be a line drive single immediately threw to second base, a double up the runner, and that was it. The game was over. So Toronto went from having runners on second and third with none out there in the 9th inning to game over in just 3 pitches. It was a pop-up double play to end it, no runs in. Quite a reversal there. Let's listen to what the manager said after the game.
I feel great. I feel great, John. You know, we're gonna leave it out there. I don't think that the pressure, the moment's going to be too big for us. We got to go out there and win 1 baseball game. We've done that all year. Everyone's bought in, and so I don't know how the game's going to play out. But as far as kind of the moment, winning a game, I couldn't be more excited to get to sleep and wake up to play a baseball game tomorrow.
Yeah, it was eerily similar to Game 2, you know, between him and Gauze. I don't want to overlook what Kev did too. You know what I mean? I mean, coming out of the chute the way he did, and you know, just the 1 inning again. You know what I mean? And they had a couple big swings. But I thought our bats were better. I thought we made him work. I did think getting him out after the 6th was going to benefit us. You know, and we were close to getting it done, but. I thought the at-bats were better. We had some chances. I really think, too, like even in the first inning, you know, kind of a hang and breaking ball to Vlad, you know, double plays helped him a couple times, but I thought our at-bats were better.
Yeah, so Toronto, I mean, that place is going to be amped up tonight. I'm guessing the fans, I mean, this is a blowout or something. They're going to be on their feet the whole game cheering. So very exciting game.
Well, you know, Game 1, it was in Toronto, right? And I think they won by quite a bit in that Game 1.
Yeah,
so
it was like 11-4. Yeah, and they were like on their feet the whole time there too. That was probably because, you know, they hadn't had a World Series game in more than 3 decades, but still, yeah, they're getting great fan support.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how fan support can really get the guys going.
It does. It definitely translates to the players. I mean, you see constantly home records are better than away records. That's why everybody tries to get the better record in the regular season, so they get the home field advantage in the playoffs, and now the Blue Jays have it tonight. Well,
you know, the Dodgers are going to start Shohei Ohtani tonight. He's only had 3 days rest. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 3 days, of course, is unusual for him. It makes sense, though, from the perspective, this is the only way they can have him pitch and still be the designated hitter. Because if he starts as the designated hitter and then they need to come in as a reliever, he can't go back to being the DH when he's done. That's just the way the rule is. So he's going to start tonight. I doubt he goes more than a few innings, maybe 5 to 6 at the most if he's really going well. You know, Ohtani, though, like I said, normally pitches on 5 to 6 days rest. But every pitcher is going to be available tonight for both teams, except maybe the starters from last night's games, unless it even goes into extra innings. I mean, that's Yamamoto for LA started yesterday, Kevin Gausman for Toronto. Now, starting for the Blue Jays tonight, 3-time Cy Young winner Max Scherzer. The guy is 41 or 42, I can't remember now. So the pitching matchup is very intriguing. Game starts 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be on Fox.
Now, how much rest has Scherzer gotten?
I think he pitched in game 2, I think? So I think he's actually on a normal amount. So this is probably a slight advantage for the Blue Jays. And if you know Scherzer, that guy is always amped up for these postseason games. I'm really excited to see him. And Ohtani, I mean, neither of these guys are known to, you know, not do well under the limelight. They both shine under the limelight. So I think the pitching matchup, as well as just the whole setup, Game 7 in Toronto, it should be a very intriguing game tonight.
So the age difference doesn't matter here in this instance.
You know, it always does. This is not the same Scherzer who won those 3 Cy Youngs, but he still looked pretty good in, I think it was Game 3 he pitched, or was it Game 2? I can't quite remember now. My memory is failing me. This seems like such a long series.
But I mean, he's not the same pitcher, but it seems like he's able to kind of bring it back for the big moments in these playoffs. So I'm excited to see if he can tonight, too.
Yeah, I think he might be able to. Good for him. Now we're going to switch gears to college football because we got a full slate of games coming up. And so where are things standing on there?
Yeah, 9th-ranked Vanderbilt lost to 20th-ranked Texas A&M here. It's 34-31. Now, I'm not really going to call it an upset, though. I mean, Texas, they were #1 to start the season. Anyway, let's take a look at this, though. Arch Manning put up some great numbers for the Longhorns. 328 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Longhorns were actually up 34-10 early in the fourth quarter. Vandy, though, scored 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns to make it close. Wasn't quite enough. Both teams are now 7-2 on the season. Let's look at some more scores here. In the Big Ten, #1 Ohio State beat Penn State 38-14. Buckeyes are now 8-0. Meanwhile, Penn State now has lost 5 straight games. They are last in the Big Ten. In the ACC, SMU upset 10th-ranked Miami in overtime, 26-20. Canes have now lost 2 of the last 3 games. And in the Big 12, West Virginia upset 22nd-ranked Houston, 45-35. Now going on right now, big rivalry game in the SEC between Florida and 5th-ranked Georgia. They are tied at 17 entering the fourth quarter. Then tonight in the SEC, we've got 18th-ranked Oklahoma is at 14th-ranked Tennessee. Game starts at 7:30 Eastern Time. We also have a big game in the Big Ten at the same time. 23rd-ranked U.S.A. is at Nebraska. Then later in the Big 12, 17th-ranked Cincinnati is at #24 Utah. Game is at 10:15 Eastern Time. So a lot of good games to watch today. That will be flipping back and forth between those and the World Series tonight for sure.
Well, what's happening with Penn State? I thought they were always a good team. But...
They always usually are, you know. I mean, they were long-term, obviously, from Joe Paterno, of course, for those 40-something years. And even after Paterno's, exit, they were so good for a while. They fired James Franklin earlier this year after that 3-3 start, which I still didn't agree with the decision, especially given they had to pay him $50 million, not the coach there anymore. But in there, that third loss, they lost their starting quarterback for the season to an injury, Drew Allaire. Oh. So and also I got to say, all 3 of those games that they lost in a row there were very close. Now this one was not very close today, 38-14. So. Numbers sometimes can be a little bit deceiving anyway. They're 3-5 overall. I think they're 0-5 now in the Big Ten. That's certainly not a sight you see from Penn State.
No, it's quite unusual.
That is very unusual, yes.
Well, we'll see what happens with the World Series tonight. I think that's the exciting game.
I think it is too.
All right, thanks, Dave, so much.
Thank you, Arlene.
All right. For decades, eating plenty of green vegetables and natural grains has been widely seen as the foundation of a healthy diet. But is this diet really as healthy as we think it is? In this episode of Vital Signs, physician Dr. Anthony Chaffee joined host Brendan Fallon to explain why a plant-based diet could actually be toxic and how your body could benefit from eating nothing but meat, eggs, and fat instead.
We're all familiar with the food pyramid, right? Launched in 1992 by the U.S.A, it placed refined carbohydrates like white bread, cereal, rice, and pasta at the bottom as the foods we should eat the most of. It placed fats, including saturated fats like butter, cream, and tallow, at the top as the items to eat sparingly. Meat it placed one step below that, to be consumed in relative moderation. Of course, there have been various variations on this model over the decades, but the themes of carbs over protein and everything over fats has stayed fairly consistent. But what kinds of results are we really seeing from this dietary advice over the decades? And in light of medical advances and seemingly sound dietary advice, why is the cancer death rate for those under 50 actually increasing? My guest today, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, says conventional dietary advice is the prime reason. He's at the vanguard of a movement that's turning such wisdom on its head, eating nothing but meat, eggs, and fat via the carnivore diet. Now he'll share what prompted him to take this drastic step. From the immune to the metabolic systems, he'll reveal how eating carnivore can prevent and even fight cancer. And he'll share the foundational principles for starting on this diet. Dr. Chaffee is an American medical doctor in Australia. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthier from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendan Fallon. Dr. Chafee, wonderful to have you join us on Vital Signs today. There's so many different things I want to talk to you about, the potential role of carnivore for cancer, and also just how some beginner steps for someone wanting to start this kind of diet. Firstly, though, I'm really interested to just get a snapshot of how you came to be carnivore and how long this has been going on for.
Well, I started eating this way when I was in my early 20s, so I'm 45 now, so it's about 25 years ago, and it was a bit random. I wasn't trying to, do the carnivore diet. It wasn't anything called that at the time, but I had been taking biology and botany at the University of Washington in Seattle in my undergraduate studies, and I had a professor of cancer biology, coincidentally enough, who convinced us that eating vegetables was a really bad idea, that these plants defend themselves by being toxic. They're living organisms, and all living organisms have defenses against predation. And while animals can run away or fight back, plants can't. They're stationary. So they make about 1 million different defensive chemicals in order to protect against being eaten. And this is something I had already studied in botany, so it did make sense from that standpoint. But he put in the context of fruits and vegetables, produce and grains that we would eat on a daily basis. And he showed us a list that he had put together with the numbers of carcinogens next to each produce item and grain. And there were dozens and dozens of known carcinogens in these produce items, plants, grains, fruits, vegetables, things like that.
Was he basically saying it's just plants, vegetables are out across the board?
Yes, so he was saying that this is just their natural defense. Some of them are going to be more toxic than others. I mean, we even have this concept generally that people generally understand of edible versus non-edible plants. Plants that are non-edible, they're so toxic that they will kill you or make you extremely sick, even with a small amount. And so you have to be very careful. If you get lost in the woods and you run out of food, you can't just eat any random plant because they can make you very sick or you can die. You have to know exactly which ones are safe to eat. But safe doesn't necessarily mean that they're 100% good for you or 100% safe. It just means that they're not so acutely harmful that they will kill you in that moment. But there are many things that in lower doses can make you sick long term. And we even know this in veterinary medicine. There are diseases, things like big head, big tongue, limp neck, crazy cow syndrome. Those are all so-called diseases that we see in livestock when they start eating plants that they're not designed to eat. So these are full herbivores that only eat plants their entire life. And yet if they eat the wrong plants, they can get very sick or even die. And so what he was pointing out, what my professor was pointing out, was that we get these diseases too. We get sick as well. But it's just on sort of in such a way that we don't recognize that it's poison because it's a slower poison. And he expressed to us that he didn't eat vegetables. He wouldn't eat salad. He wouldn't let his children eat vegetables or salad. And then he just said to us, plants are trying to kill you. These are not your friends. This is not the Garden of Eden. We are not here to, these are not here for us. And that left a lasting impression upon me.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Coming up, daylight saving time ends on Sunday at 2 a.m. We have some tips on how to maintain your circadian rhythm and how one teacher transformed a high school journalism class into a media powerhouse. Her hands-off approach and trust in students helped shape a generation of creators and innovators. More on that story when we come back. Americans will adjust their clocks Sunday when daylight saving time ends at 2 a.m. local time. The annual change also means people will have to tinker with their internal clocks. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on how to maintain your circadian rhythm.
Americans will get an extra hour of shut-eye when the clocks roll back into Standard Time Sunday. Standard Time will last until March 8th, when daylight saving time returns. Jamie Zeitzer at Stanford's Center for Sleep and Circadian Sciences explains how our internal clocks keep ticking.
You have a central circadian clock, and it is basically a clock that's inside your brain. And it's a 24-hour clock, or a near 24-hour clock, that needs to get synchronized to our 24-hour day.
The American Medical Association and American Academy of Sleep Medicine have long advocated for standard time year-round. New research from Stanford finds that switching back and forth is the worst option for our health. Zeitzer says there's a natural remedy.
Getting early morning light is great. So when you wake up, get that light, and that'll help accelerate the switch faster.
If light first thing isn't feasible, there are other options.
If you can, go outside. If not, try to be in a brightly lit room as much as possible, or sit by a window. This will help facilitate kind of shifting your clock faster in the fall.
Most countries do not observe daylight saving time. In the U.S., Arizona and Hawaii don't change and stay on standard time. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Esther Wojcicki, an educator, journalist, and author, often called the godmother of Silicon Valley, shares her extraordinary journey reshaping how students learn and think. Her approach not only produced award-winning publications, but also inspired a culture of creativity that still thrives today.
You built the most successful journalism program in the United States. You became the top teacher in California. You wrote a best-selling book, and you're regarded often as the best parent and educator in the country. So please tell us a little bit about the elements that you implemented through your teaching.
So I implemented this program at Palo Alto High School, and it started in 1984. And in the beginning, it was a traditional journalism program where students came to class and sat on their desks and listened to me, the teacher, and read a book and then took tests. And
just like
any other class. And then I realized about 6 months into the program, after I'd just been hired, that not only were the kids not learning anything, but they were bored, and so was I. I was really bored. It just wasn't exciting. And so I got rid of the book and put it back in the book room. Then I decided the most effective way for them to learn to be journalists was to read a real newspaper. So I got some real newspapers and handed them out in class. So if they read on page 1, they were reading news. The question is, how do you write news? So these were good models for how to write news. So then I went over each story and explained how it was written, and then they would copy that style and write their own story. They thought that was great. They loved it. The other reason I think the kids came to the program and liked it was because I always let them revise. So if they did a bad job in writing their article, I was like, so what? No problem, just do it again. And so they revised, and kids loved to revise because then they could get an A. So everybody in the class could get an A if they revised. That was it. So it became a very popular program. So word got out in the school, I didn't advertise, that this was a fun program. So next year, the first number, I had about 19 kids in the first year. The next year, it doubled, and I didn't do anything. They just told their friends. To make a long story shorter, from 2000 until 2012, every 2 years, I started another publication. So today, in Palo Alto, at the Media Arts Center, there are 14 magazines, 1 newspaper, a television program is every day, podcasting, and video production that kids make movies.
Still going on right now.
It's not only still going on, there's now hundreds of kids in the program and 4 other teachers.
That's amazing. And I also heard that you were not necessarily telling them what to do or giving them answers, but once in a while, at the right time, you would drop a hint.
I would drop a lot of hints. I would let them continue to do something which I personally didn't think I would ever do. But sometimes those things actually worked out. You know, I remember one of the magazines they wanted to create was a magazine that I thought would just fail. It was like crazy idea. It was, a creative magazine where they were teaching kids, how to cook, how to braid your hair, how to do all these things that I thought, I don't know, we're spending all this money producing this magazine and probably no one is going to look at it. I was wrong. The whole school wanted to look at it. So, you have to trust them because it's their generation, right? It's not my generation. What's interesting to them, give them that opportunity, because kids would say, I don't know how to do this. Nobody, I've never done it before. And my philosophy was, just do it, because then you can revise, do it quickly and then revise until it gets to be perfect. And it sort of translated into this philosophy in Silicon Valley, which was basically do it and then, it's fail fast. I never said fail to my students. I said, revise, make it better. And it worked.
You can watch that full interview on epochtv.com by clicking the Talk Shows tab to find Bay Area innovators. And that's the news for this evening. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Arlene Richards. Good night.